A riff, a short piece of speech or writing that develops a particular theme or idea. Something I want to talk about today, and I've been using these riffs as ideas of what I want to write about at length in the future. But what I want to talk about today is how your idea of the self really doesn't exist. What do I mean by that? I mean that we all have this idea of who we are, and we think who we are exists somewhere in our minds or in our brains. But the reality is, it doesn't. So, your understanding of yourself comes from many different parts of your brain that's just firing off to create an understanding of who you think you are. And we know this because if there is damage to the brain, you could have amnesia and you don't know who you are. Or if there's damage to, say, the prefrontal cortex or the amygdala, you might become a different person. You might become more angry. And the reason why is because the structure in your brain that made you that way has been affected. And why is this important? Why is this useful to think about? Well, I think it's useful to think about because you could use this understanding to better yourself, because you know that, one, you have this idea of who you are, but it's not completely accurate, right? So you could say that you're an honest person, but that's probably because you have this idea that you're an honest person. But if you kind of look back, maybe there's moments that you were dishonest and your brain had discounted them. Or you have goals and ambitions that you say you have, but you're not aligned to that. Common one is people who want to eat right, go to the gym. They say this, they say health is an important aspect in their lives, but when you see their actions, it doesn't match up. And why is that? Well, it's because the parts of their brain that's responsible for the doing and the habits aren't the part of the brain that is responsible for these idealistic thoughts. So even though you could say, oh, I hold health and wellness up there as my top values, your action could be saying something totally different. But that's okay, because if you can realize this, you know that in the moments where there's weakness and you're not aligned in your actions to your ideals, you know it's not because you're a liar or you're not truly holding these values. It's more so that this aspect of your brain is already pre-wired and wired based off your past actions. So if you start to change your actions over time, it will become more in aligned with the ideal self. But that element of changing your actions and aligning that part of your brain to your ideals is the only way that's going to happen. So that's the thought. I'll write about this at length, but I want to just get these ideas in video format really quickly so I can always review it back. But thought for the day: you are not yourself. Yourself doesn't exist. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow.